I'm here with Miao Jiang, who is the Senior Program Manager for Azure API Management. And well, I guess first question is, what's API Management?
Sure. So API Management is a product offered on Azure to help our customers to publish, secure, and analyze their APIs.
Right.
Basically, at the heart of the product, it's an API gateway. Since a gateway sits in front of all the backend APIs, it can handle all the cross-cutting concerns for those APIs, such as authentication, authorization, throttling, caching, and so forth. And in addition to that, we know that developer engagement is super important for especially for externally facing APIs, right? So in addition to the API gateway, we also provide a developer portal out of the box that can help our customers. Basically, it's a portal that can enable developers to self-serve, so they can discover the APIs that are useful for their applications, register, get access to the APIs. They can get all the documentations of those APIs in the developer portal. And we also provide a try it feature where developers can just make a calls to this API, without writing a single line of code.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's kind of is this sort of a Swagger? Is it Swagger or was it Swashbuckling? I can't remember which of the two.
So it used to be called Swagger. Now it's called Open API Specification. So if you have a Swagger file or Open API spec for your backend APIs, you can just import that file into API Management and immediately publish your API.
And you're done. Okay,
Yeah,
all right, that's good. No. So as a developer, and I want to start using the Azure API the Azure API Management tool, I guess it's called.
Right.
Is that all in Azure or in the portal, or how do you where do you start? What are the dev tools like?
Yeah, so it's one of the Azure products. So you can just go to Azure portal and go provision an API Management instance and start using it.
Oh.
Yeah, so the better part is that we just released a serverless offering of API Management. So you can just go provision an API Management consumption tier in less than 2 minutes. And you can, start using it, making calls to your APIs, and we only charge by the number of API calls. So if there's no calls, there's no charge.
So completely consumption model.
Completely consumption model.
Yeah, right. Because at Cloud Guru, we are a little bit biased to serverless. Like our whole platform is built on serverless. So that's kind of cool. So you're saying I could have an API in a couple of minutes that's all serverless. So is it Azure Functions that's underneath, or?
Yeah. So the backend can be anything. It can be implemented using Azure Functions, using Azure Logic Apps. It can be hosted on Azure API Apps, or as long as it's an HTTP web API. As long as we can connect to it.
Yeah, sure.
It works.
So what's coming up? What are the sort of the enhancements to this product that we can expect to see?
Yeah. So we are currently working on 2 big rock items. So the first one is that we are working on a completely new developer portal based on an open source content management system. So there were a couple major pain points we want to address in this new version. The first one is automation for this new portal, because our current portal it doesn't have a nice way to automate all the changes. For example, if you have multiple environments, you have made your changes to the portal in the development environment. You want to migrate all those changes to your production environment. Right? Currently, we don't have a smooth flow. Let's just say that. Yeah. So with the new version, that will be solved. And also, since the new version is open source, right? So customer can fully customize the portal. So basically they have access to the code level, right? So they can do anything they want.
Another open source thing.
Exactly. And then the second major item we are currently working on is a self-hosted federated API gateway. So essentially currently API Management is a cloud-only offering. So all your gateways, right, are managed by us, hosted on Azure, right?
Sure.
So some of customers, they have requirements to have an on-premise API gateway. For example, they have on-premise API clients talking to on-premise APIs, so they don't want the traffic to leave their own data center, right? So that's one example. And also some customers, they want to, so with the emergence of microservices, clusters, right? So some of our customers, they want to host their API gateways inside their, let's say, Kubernetes cluster, right? So what we are going to offer is a containerized API gateway. Right. So it will be the same as our current gateway, but it will be, so we'll provide you as a container image, right? So customers can host it anywhere. So it will be federated, meaning that you can manage. So let's say you have gateways hosted in Azure that we call local gateways, and then you will have a number of satellite gateways hosted anywhere outside of Azure, on-premise, on your local, environment, things like that. So you can go to Azure portal, see all these gateways, configure and deploy all these gateways in one place, and then you will see the analytics of all the APIs going through all your APIs in Azure portal.
Wow.
So that's why we could call it self-hosted but federated API gateway.
It's a bit like you're taking over all the APIs. So one of the things that really can trick developers out is versioning of APIs, because if you have a public-facing API, you'll have one customer is using version 2, another one's version 2.1. How do you manage that in the API management tool?
Yeah, sure. So in API management, we currently have pretty sophisticated support for versioning of your APIs. So basically, there are two concepts in API management today. So there is revisions, and then there is versions. So revisions is for non-breaking change, and it's only the API provider is aware of it. So let's say it's the API provider. I want to make a non-breaking change to my API, so I can create a new revision of this API and make the changes in a private and a safe manner and test it, right? And then once everything's good, I can promote the new revision to be the current revision. So the API consumers, they don't even know about it, right? They don't even know the API has been changed, right? So then there's the concept of version. So let's say I want to make a breaking change, right? If I want to remove an operation, for example, right? So I can create a new version of this API, right? And so from the API consumer's perspective, they will see two versions of this API, and they can choose when to adopt the new version. So basically, they can choose when to use the new version when they are ready. Okay. And also, some of our customers they version their backend APIs, right? And sometimes they are wondering, okay, every time I create a new version in my backend, do I need to create a version API management gateway as well, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we actually also have sophisticated transformation policies, so that can make it easier for you to make your front-end APIs backward compatible. So let's say the API consumer, they might not even know you have a newer version in your backend, but you can use transformation policies, right, to transform the payload to meet the contract of the newer version, right? So in that case, you don't have to create a lot of versions in the front end, while so you can still have versions in the back end.
Right. So it's kind of like a mapping exercise, really, from one to the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then I guess the next step of this is, does this integrate with Azure DevOps? Like, because as a developer, I would probably push my code to there. I would probably have a build pipeline somewhere there, and then that would be pushed like to an app service. Is that right?
So that's a very timely question. So you can go to https aka.ms/apimdevops. So we actually just announced a resource kit for DevOps with API management. So basically, we have published examples, best practices, guidance, and also a couple utility tools, which are also open sourced, to help our customers to implement the CI/CD pipeline for API management.
I'm a developer and I want to start using the API management tool in Azure. Where do I start? Where is the first step for me to go?
Oh, sure, yeah. So if you search for Azure API Management, right, or if you go to aka.ms/apimdevops, so we actually have a series of tutorials that take you through the steps to start, provision your API management instance, publish your first API, apply some basic policies to your APIs, view analytics of your APIs, set up, alert rules in case if something bad happens, to your API, things like that. So you can find all the, all the resources in online. Yeah.
Fantastic. That has been very interesting. I was actually a few things I didn't know, including the DevOps thing. I promise you, I did not plan that question beforehand. So thanks a lot, Miao. It's been very, very insightful. Thank you.